Now 4 p.m. and I would like to start the Board of Commissioners regular meeting Thursday, November 7th, 2019 at 4 p.m. I would like to start out by call to order and a roll call.
Commissioner Adair?
Here.
Commissioner Turnbull?
Present.
Commissioner Obuchowski? Commissioner Henry?
Here.
Commissioner Parks?
Present.
Commissioner Chenoweth?
Present.
Commissioner Rose?
Here. Second item is approval of the agenda. Get a second.
I move that we approve the agenda.
We've had a motion to approve the agenda, and we have a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull?
Yes.
Commissioner Obuchowski? Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth?
Yes.
Commissioner Rose?
Yes.
Item 3, public comments on the agenda items only.
Hello, my name is Esther Pat. I'm with the Champaign Urbana Tenant Union, and I have a few comments about the moving to work plan. First I just mentioned, because I know there's one commissioner, at least maybe a couple, who care about this. I just asked you to reconsider the 8-year limit, and not for the other reason that you were talking about, but everyone's different, and 8 years is not long enough for people whose children are very young when they first start in the program. Just keep in mind, if in year 1 the children are age 3 and 5, it will be 8 years before they are old enough to be left home alone, and expecting mom to work full-time and go to school to raise her income when she has children who she has to pay to have babysitters for any moment she's not home is not reasonable. But I understand you do these things because you have to ration this rare commodity of housing subsidies, which is why I feel so strongly that it is very, very wrong for the Housing Authority of Champaign County to be investing in subsidizing housing for people over 100 miles away, and you've already committed 41 project-based vouchers to projects in Crawford County and Jasper County. And I just think if we had a surplus here, I'm all for helping everyone in the world, but close to 6,000 people applied for subsidies in a short period this year to Housing Authority. 3,800 people who applied, you've just they can't even get on the list because you had so many applicants. You right now, from what I can tell from your reports, is that you are serving fewer than 2,000 households, and you have more than 2,000 households on your wait list. So the need here is great, and we cannot afford for our community. I don't see why our community should suffer so that we can help people in other communities. And what I'm wondering, I realize in the report you've already committed 41 units, so those are gone, but just how much of that money that you have for housing choice vouchers and project-based vouchers are you going to be setting aside, sitting on, and then giving out to other counties? And I strongly encourage the Board of Commissioners to rethink this whole thing, and if you are going to, like I said, you're already stuck on the 41, that you need to set a ceiling on it, a limit. Is it gonna be 100? Is it gonna be 200? Is it gonna be 500 families who don't get served in Champaign County because you're helping people hundreds of miles away? I think that is very wrong. And the last thing is something I read about in the paper today that was also in the report about your wanting to take the amount of money that would help subsidize 2 families' rent and give it all to 1 student to be able to pay for college. Part of me loves the idea of that, even that you recognize that the cost of housing is a major barrier to higher education. But there is still the problem of that the homeless children in Champaign Public Schools because their moms couldn't get vouchers because you gave this money to a college student. But if you're gonna give it to a college student, please, you have inadvertently targeted the least needy people in Champaign County. And I'll make it simple. You got 2 seniors at Centennial High School who live in subsidized housing. One got accepted to U of I, the other one didn't get accepted to U of I, but she got into ISU. The one who got into U of I is going without any help from you because that person already has free housing with her mom. The one who got accepted to ISU isn't going because she's gonna have to pay an extra minimum $12,000 to get into ISU. And so subsidizing the children from subsidized households who got into U of I makes no sense. They could live at home, even though they'd rather live in the dorms. But if you want to help people go to college, if you want to help your clients' children go to college, the ones who can't afford it, the ones who can't afford it are the ones who are going to Eastern, ISU, Northern, to the other state schools because they couldn't get into U of I. And often they are not going, and you all probably have friends and family who have the same situation. It's a big difference between whether they can live at home or they have to go away to school, and that is really, I don't know, if you want to put any money for something out of the county, I'd rather you keep all the project-based subsidies here in Champaign County, and if you want to give some money to people to college, give it to the kids from here who are going to college elsewhere, but only if they can get the financial aid, and you would be a big piece of their financial aid so that they could go to a four-year college. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other, okay.
Hi, Carrie Wyman, Neighborhood Services Director for the City of Champaign. First, I want to apologize. I sent all of you an email last week and did not realize that one of your staff had actually contacted me by phone and left a voicemail about the very issue that I emailed you, so I wanted to publicly apologize for that. I'm grateful for the document. The city's now reviewed the proposed Good Steward program. I think it meets many of the marks of what we've been talking about. I've talked to you about here in 2 board meetings. We've had several discussions. There's still a few lingering questions, but I feel like we're the path that we thought we'd be heading down, so I'm grateful for that. And the city's looking forward to taking that program to our city council, hopefully by the end of this year, so that we can have that. As you understand, with your activity, that may require a subsidy from the city of Champaign. So we're hoping that we can finalize that by the end of the year so the tenants moving into the neighborhood know just exactly what it is that they're signing up for. I also wanted to thank you and your staff for collaborating with our City of Champaign staff for hosting HUD here in the near future to do a Section 3 meeting. We're looking forward to that, and you guys have offered, I think, to be the host, so thank you. And then lastly, I've had the opportunity in the last 2 days, both yesterday and today, to go through Bristol, go through some of the units, meeting with some of our inspectors and our staff, and it is just amazing. Every time I drive by, it's amazing, but thank you to all of you. It has been a long road to get there, and I know we have many needs in our community, but that is going to be a site that all of us should be proud of having a part in, and it wouldn't have been done without you, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 4, approval of minutes. I'd like to get a motion to approve regular meeting minutes of September 26, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes for the regular meeting September 26, 2019.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull,
Yes.
Commissioner Obuchowski, Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth, Commissioner Rose.
Yes.
Item 2, approval of the annual meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the annual meeting minutes.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks, Commissioner Chenoweth,
Yes.
Commissioner Rose.
Yes.
Item 5, new business. Resolution 219-16, approval of the single room occupancy moderate rehabilitation program.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I was just going to mention, well, I'll just leave that there. Okay. The single room occupancy mod rehab program, it's 25 units that we receive subsidy, basically pass-through subsidy. And each year we analyze the contract rent, and basically the request is based on an OCAF, operating cost adjustment factor that HUD publishes, and we just use that to increase the contract rents for the property, so there's no extra burden on the residents there. It's only on the base of the HAP funds that we get and then pass along to the property. So it's approval for the budget. I'll just note on the first page of the attachment on box 23, there is just a typo there. It should be 112,334 matching what's in box 20. Any questions on that resolution?
If there's no questions, we'll call for a motion. I'll read it. Resolution 219-16, approval of single-room occupancy moderate rehabilitation program.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth,
Yes.
Commissioner Rose.
Okay. Number 2, under new business, resolution 219-17, approval of the personnel plan. Speak to that.
Well, we have, one of the things that we wanted to do is update our personnel plan. So we have started working with a consultant a number of months ago who has helped us in a number of ways. And so one of those ways was updating our personnel plan that hadn't been, updated since 2009. And so we have her on a phone in order to save money, on Skype in order to save money. So she has a brief presentation that she wanted to show to allow the board members to see some of the changes that we made and some of the reasons of why. Are you there, Allison? She there?
Allison? There she is.
there you go.
All right, there we go.
So Allison, I just briefly introduced you to the board members and the audience. Can you please introduce yourself and go over the brief presentation?
All right, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Allison Bloodhart. I do some consulting for the Housing Authority of Champaign County regarding human resources and leadership development, et cetera. And today we're just going to go over a quick overview on the changes on the employee handbook. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask at any time. Can all of you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll move forward. So the reason why we looked at rewriting the employee handbook was because the last time it was formally reviewed and revamped and the whole thing looked at was in 2009. There had been additional changes along the way, but we thought we should look at the handbook in its entirety. We wanted to make sure that we were compliant with federal, state, and local laws, mitigate any risk that might be out there due to some policies that might have been old and needed to be changed, and then really support the concept of growing and moving forward together for the organization. So one of the things that we did, a couple things that we did do, was we added employment classification for grant-funded positions. So there's a clear definition and what that means. So if someone is hired in that role, they understand that their role could go away due to the funding ending, and what the process would be to try to keep them employed but in a different position. And then the other piece that we also changed was work schedules that, except for some exceptions, that no one should really be in the facility before 7 a.m. or after 6 p.m. Obviously, maintenance folks may need to be in one of the facilities that you're responsible for due to an emergency and things like that. There may be after-hours activities or before-hour activities for the organization. But in general, employees should be able to do their work between 7 and 6 p.m. on site. And then to support the culture, we added some new policies. One was the donation of time. So let's say you had an employee that was relatively new to the organization, maybe only a year or two, and they meet the qualifications, but they just don't have much PTO time. Someone who's been there for a lot longer could donate some of their time to that person to help them have some level of pay while they were off. And then there's a lot of parameters around that, and it's people have to request it, and they need to qualify. So it's not just so I can go to the Bahamas because it's cold out and get paid. And then paid time off. The former policy called it universal time off. We changed the name to paid time off because that's much more common in industry. Excuse me for coughing. And then volunteering. There's a lot of opportunities. Excuse me, I'm going to mute myself for 1 second because I feel more cough. I am sorry about that. Hopefully my mute button works. As for volunteering, there's a lot of opportunities for employees to volunteer internally, for example, like at the gala. And we wanted to put some policies around that from Fair Labor Standards Act and how to flex time appropriately so that the organization doesn't have a lot of overtime expense, and yet employees are able to participate. And so that's what the volunteering policy was about. For the policy itself, once it is approved by the board and by legal, then it should be rolled out at an all-employee meeting for all current employees, and then also some documentation created for onboarding for the new hires when they join. Any questions?
That always happens.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear any. I haven't heard any questions.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions related to the personnel policy? No. Seeing none.
All right, and I'm sorry, I muted you folks while my dog was barking instead of muting me while my dog was barking. So I'm very sorry for that unprofessional background noise and my coughing. And thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Allison. We appreciate your help and your assistance. Thank you.
Thank you also. If there's no further questions, I'd like to get a motion to approve Resolution 219-17, approval of the personnel plan.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Parks,
Yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth,
Yes.
Commissioner Rose.
Yes.
Continuing on the agenda, item 3, Resolution 219-18, approval of the 2020 Moving to Work Plan.
I want to put a motion on the table that we get rid of the term of 8 years, be gotten rid of. I need a second.
Question?
Can you give me a reason you want to move from
Just like Esther Pat got up and spoke a few minutes ago about the 8-year term. The 8-year term we need to be serving people with housing as long as they need it. And no other housing authority has a term. First of all, moving to work is a term. That is, they have to work or they go to school, and that monitors the successful program. Otherwise, we don't need another term where we hindering people to kick them off of Section 8 after so many years. Just like Bristol Place, if they decide to buy a home, they can't buy it after 15 years because after 8 years, they're kicked off. So we don't need a term of 8-year terms for people to be on housing. We are supposed to be giving them housing long as they need it. Social Security doesn't have a term. I mean, you don't have a term that you can only be disability only for 8 years. Hallelujah. So my thing of it is, we are here to serve the people for as long as they need it. And long as we have ways to measure the success they're doing, we have moving to work. That's measurement itself. We have to, moving to work, you a certain age, you're exempt. If you're not a certain age, you have to work or go to school. So we measure success that way. So why do we need a term? That to me, again, is hindering people, and hallelujah. And if they are eligible to be on Section 8, they're eligible to be on there as long as they can be on there. And when they're not, they have to get off. So we need to get rid of term. Excuse me?
Is there any other questions?
It seems like I should probably second the motion so we can have discussions.
Yes.
I'll second the motion. So Linda brought this to me some time ago, and my questions, which I don't think will be solved right now, but I appreciate you opening up the conversation, Linda, is I as a commissioner do not have good data on how many folks term out at 8 years, at what income levels, and if they have an income that allows them to rent in the community without rent burden. And so I looked, after we spoke, I looked to see what kind of data we have in terms of terminations. Our monthly reports provide really intensive data, which I appreciate with the new administration. We have a lot of data we didn't have access to before. The missing piece is that under terminations, it doesn't indicate what people were terminated for. So we don't know if 8 people were terminated this month, is it 6 termed out and 1 didn't have income and 1 chose to move? We just don't know. So my understanding, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're considering taking a lot of the research in-house, and we're gonna really, I mean, I know your administration has really been looking at data-driven solutions, and I appreciate that. And so what I would recommend, at this point, I can't vote yes on it because I don't understand the implications, but I do support us having a conversation. And so
Well, what about tabling it?
Well, I'm wondering if we could actually ask, I'd like to put, and I guess suggest an alternative motion, which is essentially that we we have a study session on this issue. Maybe it's a regularly scheduled meeting, or it could be at a special meeting, whatever the chair thinks is, the best use of our time. And that we basically come back, ask staff to look at the data around what our families experiencing when they get to year 8.
Well, we have a lot of people that's going to be coming to speak on that, so we can do that, because I do have a lot of support on that, and I don't have a problem with that, but I'm going to keep bringing it up until it gets resolved, because I'm here to make sure people can have housing when they're needed, and we just can't be kicking people off after 8 years if they're not ready to be kicked off. Again, Bristol Place, I'm pretty sure the city knows what I'm talking about. If they want to buy a home, after 15 years, they're off in 8 years. Hello? So what is that saying here? That term of 8 years is not good, and we need to get rid of it.
I want to make a comment here, and then Mr. Northern wants to make a comment. My understanding was that we've been tweaking this all along, and that in 2024 would be the time that we would be reviewing everything, but during that interim, we have been making some tweaks to this. So I'll let you.
4 years is too long to get rid of term. We need to get rid of that now. Waiting all that time for what?
So I just want to just clear up a couple things. One, this year we're dealing with the Bristol situation in terms of moving that forward by the MTW activity that Kerry had talked about that we mentioned. So that won't impact none of the clients that's living in Bristol far as the 8 years that decide to buy a home. Secondly, we're only focused on individuals that's non-elderly and non-disabled from the age 18 to 54. So anybody that's disabled and anybody that's elderly in terms of near elderly, which we call 54 and up, is exempt. So they're not individuals that would be put off the program. And what Dr. Henry said, our chairman, he mentioned that in 2024, that's when the first person on our program get terminated because of the 8-year terms. And what I'm asking is that kind of what Commissioner Chenoweth said is that let us take a look at it. Over the last year and a half, we've made a lot of changes. Right? We just saw the change we made to personnel policy that hadn't been changed since 2009. And allow our staff, allow us to look at the numbers and see what best decisions that we can bring to the board in order to make these changes. I don't want to just change the change. So the changes that we're making has been strategic in terms of let's look at them, let's work on them, and let's see how we can greatly benefit our community along with the clients that we serve. And my suggestion is that we do have a conversation about it. And I understand that, this is a policy that I inherited. So I want to understand the whole ramifications of it also, knowing that HUD has tremendously disinvested in housing overall throughout the nation for years and years and years. And so we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared.
I'm sorry, you said HUD disinvested in housing?
Yes.
It just seems like an oxymoron. I was trying to make sure I understood you.
Okay. And so we have to start looking at ways to, I guess, recognize the most vulnerable, also protect some of the resources related to housing. And we also have to help and promote people in order to overcome some of these obstacles. And that's what the Move to Work agency is about, helping clients overcome obstacles. We're one of 39 agencies in this nation, and HUD is about to bring in another 100 ones because they know, another 100 agencies, because they know this helps. This makes a difference. That's why our income for our clients is a lot higher than the national average, where it's the national average is close to $12,000 a year. Ours is $17,500. Because we're pushing people in the right direction of self-sufficiency. And so we've had another number of people that graduate that went off and bought homes and things like that. And, I just want to take time to look at it and just see what is going on. And by having 2024 is the first time that anybody will be negatively impacted by it. If it's considered a negative impact, we have time to take.
Well, I figure that before 4 years, we can have a panel come in here and discuss it, and it shouldn't take no 4 years to get rid of it. So we need to have a panel discussion. I'll get it set up with some different people, and we'll have people from the community come in and speak on it, just like we do other things, and that way we can get it resolved.
Okay, so we've had a discussion, we had a motion on the floor, so we'll call for the vote on resolution 219.
So what precisely was the motion? The motion was to remove the 8-year limitation to the Move to Work plan?
Yes.
If that's the motion second, then there should be a vote on that particular.
It's not the whole Move to Work program, it's just the amendment.
Yeah.
It's just an amendment to the Move to Work.
If I may interject, it sounds like the consensus of the board would be to have further discussions on the whole Move to Work. So I would suggest withdrawing your motion, tabling the Move to Work. Okay.
It has to be submitted by a certain time.
Okay. All right. So the motion on the floor is the removal of the 8-year limitation.
So if you vote on it, you get rid of it, and if you table, you keep it and discuss it. Is that correct?
Yes.
We want to vote to get rid of the term, the 8-year term, or we want to vote to keep it in? Keep it as it is.
That's the vote.
That's vote.
There's been a motion and a second.
So call for the vote.
Commissioner Adair?
I'm not sure I understand.
So your vote would be yes to get rid of it, or no to, not, well, yes to amend it to remove the 8 years.
Make change.
Yeah, or no to table it and discuss it in a sense later on.
No, table it, let's discuss.
Commissioner Turnbull,
Mine is to, since I don't know what everybody's gonna vote, someone just put table, because if I say to get rid of it and everybody else don't say get rid of it, it'll be gotten rid of and you won't do anything about it. So I'll vote, like he said, Mr. Adair, to table it.
Commissioner Henry,
No.
Commissioner Parks,
No.
Commissioner Chenoweth,
No.
Commissioner Rose.
No.
So we'll have, okay. Are there other items in the plan that, so the other items that you want,
This question.
question?
So the vote came out as what? We're tabling it or what?
Yes, all the commissioners unanimously voted no, and that meant to table it and discuss it later on to make it educated.
Yeah, but way before 4 years though. We're gonna table it and get a panel. I don't wanna wait 4 years to get this resolved.
So just on the total plan, I have a couple of questions. So part of the work was trying to compare last year's plan to this year's plan, but I finally got through all of these. I apologize for not sending some of these questions in advance. So on page 19, there's a LSS income requirement. This is something that we've discussed several times over the year. It was in the 2019 plan, but my understanding is it hasn't been implemented yet, right? People are still being kept at the threshold of you have to work 25 hours, or are we also looking at income at this time in this year?
We're looking at both income or the hours.
Okay, so it's either or.
It's either or, yes.
Okay, and is there a change in that for 2020, or are we keeping it an either or situation?
Keeping it either or.
Okay, that answered my question, because I was trying to figure out if somebody's in year, 4, do they have to be making that amount? So the second thing in terms of the differences in the plan is that the current plan, 2019, says that rent will be recalculated if the household income changes by more than $300. But I noticed that that item was removed in the 2020 plan. And so, and I also, I guess I just, I want to understand, in the 2020 plan, if passed and both by us and approved by HUD, will we be recalculating rent if household income changes by more than $300? And in what time frame would we be recalculating rent? Does that question make sense?
A little.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
There was no change to that. That's an error. We need to
Okay.
add it back in.
Okay, great. So I was concerned because I was going back and forth between the two plans. So if the motion that is on the table could reflect that the income will be the rent will be recalculated if the household income changes by more than 300. I would appreciate that so that there's clarity in the motion. And the next one, which I think I just kind of want to bring to your attention, I'm going to pass around this graph. Maybe every 2 people could take it. And if the public wants to see it, it's actually very easy to see. I'll give you a picture. This is unemployment rates. This is the state of Illinois' unemployment rate. See how it's smooth? It's red and it's smooth. It's going down, which is good. We want to see unemployment go down, so that's positive. This is Champaign County. It looks like a heartbeat. If you can't see it, it bumps up and down, up and down. The source of this is the I plan. The I plan is put out by the Champaign-Urbana Public Health Department on the board I serve on. And the I-Plan, this data basically shows that Champaign County has 2 little heartbeats every year. Those 2 little heartbeats are summer and winter. Most people who are in the service industry or work for the university in precarious jobs know this graph really well, but I think sometimes policymakers don't know this graph as well. I'm going to explain in a minute why I brought this up. So one thing we need to be really aware of is that when we make policy, we need to know that people get laid off every summer, and it's significant. Like, look at it. The trough is large. A lot of people, and our office, we have to bail a lot of folks out in the summer who have been laid off by university housing, which is another issue, or been laid off by janitorial services or the service industry. So I think it's really important that when folks, it says in page 20 under rent changes that essentially if someone loses their job, it says they will not have a change in rent for 90 days and must meet income requirements at that time. And now if they're laid off, they get another 90 days, which I appreciate, because I mean, that gives them a full 6 months. But I want us to just be aware, and I want the staff to be aware, you might know this already, that really, when we're looking at 90 days, that's about the length of time of the summer. And we see a lot of folks who are laid off in May, and then by about July or August, they're desperate, they're behind on rent, and they're trying to get back into their job. They work some service sector job. They work, but they're just not making enough. So I guess I just want to say, I saw that this was already in 2019, and it continued in 2020. But when we're implementing our Move to Work program, I just want us to take into consideration the fact that in our community, people get laid off twice a year. And so it also says in there that you're only given 1 waiver a year. If you get laid off a second time, then essentially you're not compliant in the program. So because this is actually not a change, I was trying to figure out if this was new. I don't have a change to our current Move to Work program. It's something that was implemented in 2019. But I know that as we go to implement this plan and refine it, I want to ask us to really remember this graph and think about how our policies move to help people who have been laid off in these seasonal unemployment periods. A question regarding plans for the 2 additional tax credit applications for developments in rural areas in 2020, that's page 2. My question is on developments that happen outside Champaign County, since these are unspecified developments, can we review opportunities such as access to additional credit, development, revenue, etc., against costs? So before you secure new development outside of Champaign County, what I'm asking for is, could you bring the opportunity cost to the table, and could we look at the real numbers? Because my understanding is we're doing outside investments because it does bring long-term revenues to us over time. And I guess I want to see the projections around those revenues. I'd like to have, we can take some of the current outside the county projects, and maybe you could help us to understand, because it's come up at the city of Champaign. Council, Esther of the tenant unions brought it up. I hear about it a lot in the community. Why are we investing outside the county? And I feel like we probably need a time to look at that as a board before we make additional investments outside the county. And then my last question is, I do want to support students in housing. I called David, I think it was 2 days ago, on this issue. And I was quoted in the paper about this this morning, although it was half my quote, it wasn't the full quote. But what I'd like to do is, if we move forward with this piece, I want to make sure we're focusing on local kids and we're not paying the profits to the U of I. So you all probably know that U of I housing is a profit center at the university. So if we pay UI housing rates, we're basically supporting that profit center. And I feel like the university does not need us to do that. And I also am concerned that it takes away opportunities for other folks in the community to give students the option of living on campus when they have that option to live at home. And I confirmed that after I spoke with David. I went to the U of I website and I saw that if you are a local kid, you can stay with your parent. So I do think that we could refine it. I think we could move forward with it and refine it to say, let's look and see how we can support kids who might have domestic violence in their house where it would not be a good idea for them to stay at home. Homeless kids who don't really have a place to call home, or folks who have aged out of the foster system. That was the second part of my quote. So I really think it would be helpful to look at that and maybe refine to make sure, since we're only talking about 5 or 6 kids, it's going to be like a real, like winning the jackpot lottery. It'd be nice if we could target and focus those on the few kids who really need it, and make sure that we get the university to come down on their price. These are things I mentioned to David. I just wanted to say them publicly. I do want to say overall that I think the plan is fantastic and it's got really exciting pieces. 3 different reentry programs, a small business opportunity program to help train our participants in inspections, getting kids involved and young people in the building trades, giving households 6 months to be compliant, and creating a very specific point system to earn $16,000 by the end of the term are all things I think are really great pieces. So I don't want my questions and concerns to overshadow what I think is a really solid plan, but I did want to share some concerns and questions.
Also, my concerns about that with the students with housing and costs, that long as the student meets the HUD guidelines, we are here to serve whoever is a resident in this city. And that also, we do have people on the waiting list, and they have to be like the other people. They have to wait on the waiting list like other people. They can't jump over those other people because they've been waiting. So that's fair. I'm about doing things fair. And you do not put other people in front of people that's been waiting. So my thing of it is, they are eligible for housing under the HUD guidelines. We have to serve those people.
Comments?
Yes, I would like to. You know, this is something that we really worked hard on, and you know, I want to applaud my staff who came up with some great ideas, and you know, the great commissioners have great comments also related to it, and it's good to have dialogue around these. It helps give a better understanding overall. So I want to address a couple of those. One, there was a number of times the individuals mentioned that, you know, the number of people on a waiting list. So we did run the numbers of every waiting list we had at the Housing Authority. We have a total of 3,000 almost people on the waiting list. 1,500 of those people, some is just not vouchers, is on all our waiting lists, but 1,500 of those people are residents of Champaign County. The other 1,500 aren't. So, you know, it's kind of mirrored sometimes when you look at the waiting list. Some of the people are people from Chicago whose waiting list is not open. It's not just our people, but because we're a federal program, we have to take everybody to sign up for our programs. Also, I mentioned earlier, HUD disinvested in a number of programs. I mean, they're not reinvesting in them. They're kind of decreasing the amount that they've been giving us over the years. And so using our flexibility as an MTW agency and the guidelines under the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the not-for-profit rules, we decided to work and look at investment opportunities so we can survive into the future. You know, so we have 4 investments outside the county, and I know some people are concerned about the number of vouchers that we put out there. But remember, it's not vouchers; it's called dollars, really. We look at it as a voucher, but it's not a voucher; it's money. So we have an allotment of 1,100 vouchers that HUD asks us to serve in terms of clients here in Champaign County. And you know, we have block grant money and we have non-HUD money, and so we're investing using both in order to, you know, help our existence overall. And just an example, and I did talk about this to the City of Champaign City Council. In the 15-year time frame, we're talking about 3 of the developments here. In the 15-year time frame, the Housing Authority invests $2.4 million. In that same time frame, we'll get 3.6 million back in return. Plus, at the end of that 15 years, we get over $30 million in assets that we can do more with. And so when people talk about the investment outside, it's an investment just like a business sense of a housing authority. We can't continually act in the same mindset of federally funded programs or tax dollar funded programs. That's why HUD created MTW and Move to Work, so we can get out of that mindset and we can see if we test these activities in the community, like requirements to work and go to school and things like that, can we do better? Or we just allow everybody to get on a program and just stay forever, right? We want to try to get people to do better, right? Because it's a generational curse that caused so many problems that we have in our communities. And so the point of investing outside is totally a benefit to the housing authority, long-term and short-term. It's not taking any vouchers or any housing away from the community. It would be great if we can house, 1,500 new people on a program, but that would take more staff. So that means it'd be less money. We couldn't house that many people. Then it would take more available housing, more landlords, which we don't have right now in order to do that, or more housing at that type of level that we don't have. Right now, we're in the process of building locally almost 200-something units of housing, Pinewood, Bristol, and the Haven. Right, and so some of those individuals will move into those couple hundred units that we have that's in construction now. Now, when we go talk about student housing, right? So we looked at a student housing voucher because we were so excited about the U of I's commitment, and we want to promote. Remember, our program is called Move to Work, so we want people overcoming obstacles. So we wanted to do a test. We took $50,000. And we looked at 5 to maybe 6 kids and been negotiating with the university on costs for just the room aspects of it. And one of the reasons we wanted to do that to see if this will work. Again, that's what our program is. It's a demonstration, and we look and test different activities to see how well it may impact the people that we serve. When we talked about serving people, we talked about serving our clients, people on our waiting list or people in our program. And just because a young man or a young woman get accepted into college and they have the ability to live home, that don't mean that's the best place for them. They may want to break away. They may need to get out that household. And so why can't we help them do that? There's a number of reasons. We can always talk about point A, point B, and point C, but there's a lot of variables in place. And you just never know. It could be an abuse situation. They could be getting molested, and they need to get out that household. And so as a young man going to college from Gary, Indiana, I know if I would have been commuting going home, I wouldn't have made it through college, because I got caught up in the same mess that my buddies got caught up in. And I was one of the only ones that don't have a criminal record today as a result of that. And so I know some people look at it as it's taking resources out, but it's the same people that we're committed to serve. And if we can make 5 or 6 young people from our program be successful, we won. We won, and this is just a test. It's just a start. It's 2 other housing authorities in the nation, Tacoma Housing Authority and Cambridge Housing Authority, that has programs like this. 20% of the MTW agencies have initiatives related to students. That's the same way we have initiatives related to reentry. That's the same way we have initiatives related to homeless. And so when you say a student jumping over somebody and not receiving housing, we have a number of programs where, because it's a special initiative, people jump over people that's currently on the waiting list. The reentry program, individuals in reentry is not on our waiting list. They come out of the prison system, they go into the programs that we partner with, and if they graduate, they get a voucher. So they jumping over everybody that was on that waiting list that didn't come out of the criminal justice system. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't. What I'm saying is that we do this already. So we'll do it for everybody else, but not our young kids, to get a higher education. Then we have the emergency family shelter. Same thing. You go through the shelter, you graduate, you move here, you get a voucher. You're not on our waiting list, you get that voucher. Mainstream vouchers, same thing. We got the application. We get people we open up a new waiting list just for this certain population of people, and all the other people that was on the waiting list don't get access to it. It's that new population. You have special programs, statewide referral network, the same thing. So it's initiatives out there that we're doing already that may impact over people jumping over others on a waiting list because it's a special need for it. So why not test that special need on our young kids?
Well, what we need to do also then on the wait list, we need to be moving some people on that wait list if they are different than the other people instead of making them wait. We got to do the same thing on the wait list like we do off of the wait list. So if you got some people on that wait list that need to be moved up, you need to move them up just like you give the vouchers to some other people. So that'll be fair both ways around.
And we do some of that. We want our programs that help a whole variety of people. In this county, the diversity in income, race, education, all kind. It's diversity. So we can't focus our program on helping just certain types. We got to try to help everybody to see how well we can grow. So right now, just a report on student housing, the HUD's report in February 2015 report, 56,000 students are homeless. Most housing for students is not affordable. Graduation rates for individuals that live on campus is amazingly higher than people that live off campus. One of the major barriers is that the college system policies have an unmet need because they underestimate the cost of off-campus living for students. And I said before, it's 2 housing authorities right now, which is 20% of the housing authorities that has MTW. So that's 39 housing authorities, 20% of them have programs for this. And all we landlord initiatives, it's a test to see if we can recruit more landlords and retain more landlords, to serve more people. So it's a lot of things that we're trying to do, and I understand the concerns of the community. I understand the voices in the community. What I'm saying is just continue to allow us to make the educated and strategic changes and test some of these ideas to benefit our clients. Thank you.
I would just like to make a few closing remarks on this issue. First of all, we didn't just look outside, since Mr. Norton has been here, we didn't just start looking outside, developing. This developing properties started under the previous executive director, and that was several years ago when we looked at this and studied this issue and talked about it. Some of the members of this board was present at that time. Second issue, I think it's a good idea to partner with the University of Illinois as if it's feasible, and I think it is feasible. And I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that we need to think outside the box sometimes. We need to think outside the box. And if this gives 4 or 5 students the opportunity to live on the campus, explore those opportunities, it's a lot different than being in the present environment, because obviously the present environment is not all that satisfactory or conducive to a learning environment, and that person, he or she, can really grow and blossom. So.
That's a good idea. But how often will we be giving vouchers? Is that every year we'll be giving 5 or 6 vouchers? Is it just one-time thing, or how are we doing that?
Well, this is a test, so we allocated a small amount of money. And, you know, I can sit here and say 50,000 a small amount of money because our budget is, we've got $100 million in construction going on and $20 million worth of, plus 20 plus million in annual budget. So that's why we want to test this subject. It's a number of ways, we're currently trying to create housing in many areas. And one of the barriers that we talked about constantly, and we discussed this earlier with the attorney, which I was astounded that we had to deal with it, our current lawsuit that we got going on, right? The Housing Authority had to pay $160,000 in taxes. Our developer partnership had to pay another $160,000. We spent over $28,000 on legal fees, $8,000 on research fees. And, we get, when we're trying to help kids, we have a lawsuit going on related to, whether we should pay taxes when we're a federal funded organization, and the state law says that housing authorities don't have to pay taxes. They pay payment in lieu of taxes. So we do pay something, we just don't pay the full rate. But for a number of years, and this happened before I got here, so we've invested over close to $300,000 in a lawsuit that we keep winning and we keep getting it filed against us. And so that's what we need to be thinking about, how we can solve those issues, because that's the wasteful money to me, in my opinion.
That's good, but in the future, what we need to do, so we won't come to the table like this, is discuss the program about giving and doing that stuff, and then we wouldn't be at the table discussing it now, because we all talked about it, and we would came up with, if we figured we want to do that, how many students we were going to try that out with, or what ideas we had, and then people wouldn't be at the table now disputing different stuff. So in the future, we need to discuss if we're going to do that with all the commissioners, and then we make a decision, and then that way we won't be at the table now disputing about this, about that. And that's a good idea, that in the future that we needed to do it like that.
Well, we have discussed those things in the past, and I know we're getting out the subject a little bit, but we really need to figure out a way to get the lawsuit resolved as quickly as possible, because it's tying up thousands of dollars. And that's what we really need to get to. So, you ready to move on? Is there any other questions? We're going to call for the vote. We need to call for the vote to approve the plan for the resolution 2019-18, approval of the 2020 moving work plan.
So moved.
It's been
With the changes.
Okay, let me rephrase that. It's been properly moved and second that we will call for the vote for the 2019-18 approval of 2020 moving work plan with changes. That we discussed.
So the changes are the missing error related to the income calculation, and was there anything else?
Yes, the term, isn't that in moving to work, the term of 8 years?
Yeah, but that was voted down.
Well, I'm going to abstain from that vote then.
Roll call.
Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull?
Abstain.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth? Yes. Commissioner Rose?
Yes.
We're moving on to item 6. Chief Executive Officer's report.
Thank you, sir. We've been pretty busy. We're going to first start out with our Employee of the Month. So, Tiffany, I'll allow you to do the honors. I believe you're the person that's supposed to get it done. I'm going to take some of your glory and just say that, the gala was very successful. We had a number of staff chip in and a number of community supporters that did a great job for us. I was just so excited to see that large level of success that we had. And so, with that being said, I'll give Tiffany the mic.
So as Mr. Northern said, the gala was successful. It was definitely a team effort. However, the accounting department, the finance department really stood out. Their assistants the night of the gala, we had a debrief meeting regarding the gala. Everyone was in agreement that the finance department just really was superb that evening, and we just want to thank you. Can you come forward?
So this month, the finance department is employees of the month. The whole department.
Yeah, actually, there's a documentary of it.
And take, oh my God, I gave them the plaque, so I don't remember last names now.
She's still kind of new, don't forget that.
It's all that MTW work. Matt, why don't you introduce your staff?
Delegate, nice.
Well, I'm Matt Gerard, and this is Pat Claiborne, Georgia Jackson, and Miguel Monero.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all so much.
And we'll pose for a picture with you guys later. You can get back to work, I guess, since you're so much great employees. Well,
thank you.
All right. We'll take a picture later. Okay, so I want to just continue on with that. As I mentioned before, the gala was a huge success. We was able to raise over $50-something thousand to help benefit our young people and our programs. We had had an opportunity, and as we said, we wanted to continue to provide access and opportunities to our young people, along with our young adults and seniors also. But we took a number of our youth ambassadors to the Illinois homecoming game and tailgate. It was a great time. They beat Wisconsin, and Home Depot helped sponsor that for us. Candace, I think you worked on that. Thank you so much. The kids had a great time playing football, throwing it around at the tailgate. Also, we did have our first meeting with our youth ambassadors, and that's just something that we want to bring to the table as young people, helping us make educated decisions about programming, about things that affect them directly. We hosted a statewide referral network training here at the organization. There was a number of individuals here. Statewide referral network is something that is utilized in order to help people with disabilities in a number of areas: mental illness, substance abuse disorders, HIV, homeless, and or at risk of being homeless. So being educated as a community, and one of the things that we saw as an organization that our community members, our community partners didn't understand it all the way, so we partnered with the Illinois Development Housing Authority and brought the training here to train a large number of people. So that was a huge success. Both Commissioner Turnbull and I received an award at the NAACP Freedom Fund banquet this year, so congratulations to you, ma'am, on all your hard work. It's well deserved. I also attended the first meeting of the Education, Equity, and Excellence Committee with District 4 School, and that's something that was brought out related to a lawsuit in a number of years ago. And so it was great that I had the opportunity to understand and see some of the data. And I just want to say, you know, we got a lot of work to do as related to the minority population in our schools, overcoming some of those obstacles. The data was astounding to take a look at it. CU Fresh Start call-in, we participated in that along with our Vice Chairman, Reverend Ricky Parks, who was on top of the stage handling the business at that event. But that's an event where we're also working and partnering with local leaders to just provide support around individuals that's at risk of going to jail, being shot, or shooting someone. So that was a great event that we was able to take a part in. We had our affordable housing panel discussion about criminal background screenings. Again, that was a number of huge success. And as we said before, we're going to continually bring exciting conversation around affordable housing and help educate the community along with ourselves related to that subject. And the last thing I just want to mention is that we did make a small change to how we will handle our board reports. Instead of making every leadership team member stand up and discuss their whole board report, each commissioner received the report. And if it's questions, then we'll ask them to come up to answer any questions. But before that start, I would like Matt to come up to talk about our finances, and not the financial report that he discussed a couple months ago, maybe a month ago, to the auditors came, and he had made some comments about the financial strength of the housing authority, which we are in a strong position, but it was kind of misguided in a sense. And so I know a number of community members have been commenting on why do we have this much money in the bank and what's the issues and why are we not spending money. So, you know, Matt and I talked about it along with the auditor, and Tiffany and I talked about it, and we just want to clearly articulate it to the board members and the community, the real picture of the finances of the housing authority.
Yeah, like Mr. Northern said, I think, so I think the auditors were very much, I think, congratulating us, I think, on our strong financial position, and wanted to emphasize that to the board. And I think maybe in the process of doing that, maybe didn't clarify exactly what that means in terms of both where we were at the end of the audit period, as well as where we are now and some of the ongoing development things that you see that are going on that we're doing, and how that impacts our reserve levels and cash levels. So, at the end of 2018, and looking at the audit report, if you're, to dive into the details, our Moving to Work program is the main source of funding. We get block grant funding, and then that's where most of our activities are existing. And so, at the end of 2018, we had about $5.8 million in unrestricted cash at the MTW level. We did turn around and we had some big expenditures at the beginning of 2019. Just overall, between the funding that came in, which that would be half funding, funding our program MTW block grant reserve or block grant, as well as the housing choice voucher admin fee, and we're also getting some RAD funding for the Haven that transitioned from, it used to be Skelton to Haven. We do get RAD funding. So our total sources so far this year have been about $10.8 million. In terms of the spending between the HAP expenses that we're paying out, housing choice voucher, admin expense, utilizing the admin fee, development expenses of just over $4.9 million, MTW program expenses of $500,000, and then we have just a local housing program expense of just $14,000. Between all that, we're at $14.4 million. So we have spent about $3.5 million more than we've taken in this year, utilizing our unrestricted cash, our reserve level. So at this point, at the end of September at least, our cash level was at $2.3 million. We do have the HUD held fund reserves as well, which was about $3.5 million at the end of 2018. Currently, it's just at $1.4 million. We do have some upcoming commitments with the Pinewood development. We have $1.8 million in commitment there. And additionally, we have more project-based vouchers that are going to be coming on in 2020 and 2021. Additional 240 project-based vouchers, which we estimate, for a full year of that at our current HAP levels for our project-based vouchers would be about $1.8 million. So we do have, some of that reserve is intentionally built up because we know we had those commitments. We know we were going to have more development done that those project-based vouchers were going to be utilized for. So that was part of it. So I just wanted to just kind of add in that as kind of part of the story. So I'd be glad to answer any questions.
This is something I just really, we talked internally, and I said, wow, we got all this money. I ain't seen it nowhere, so let's figure out where it's at. And then when we sat down and looked through the audit report, one thing, the audit report was the end of 2018, so it wasn't current, it was 2018's audit report that we're getting reported on. And then again, the commitments that Matt talked about. And so when we look at, I had a couple phone calls that came in about why we won't utilize more money for vouchers. It's not that we're not utilizing it, it's just that, we can only do so much because it's about the available units along with, we have 58 people right now out looking for units. We have a briefing this next week with at least 40 clients, new clients that have vouchers. So we're working hard to make sure we get the numbers up with the vouchers, but it takes a team, right? It takes the landlords willing, it takes the tenants that's willing to go out, find units in a timely manner, and then we come to the table. So there's a three-party kind of triangle relates to that. So, I just want to clearly articulate that we're not purposely underfunding or not housing people. It's in a financial situation that the auditor spoke of was misinterpreted. It wasn't at the levels that he talked about where we can operate with no funding for 2 years. That's not the case. So.
And I did provide that final audit. I think everyone may have gotten a copy of that. I put it in your place. So if there's any questions regarding that as well.
So with that being said, thank you, man. I totally appreciate helping clean that up. As far as the development report, any commissioners had any information or questions related to the development report? Next, the voucher program report.
I'm not exactly sure which section my questions are, but I think it's voucher based. So my questions are, I see that there's a number of people who so each month we see a number of people looking for housing, and then we see a number of new vouchers brought on, and the number of people looking for housing is about 2 to 2.5 times, roughly. I looked at about 18 months of data. Than the folks who just got vouchers. So do we have, either for today or a future report, how many households lost their voucher because they maxed out on time to look? Like, what does that look like? How often does it happen? Because it seems like we do have a lot of folks who are out there circulating, and I guess I'd like to get numbers on, like, not what are the consequences. Like in this year, how many people lost their vouchers because they just couldn't find a place to look? They couldn't find a place to move into.
I don't have that hard data on me. I can get that to the board though.
Okay. And then also while you're doing that, it would be, and I mentioned this before, we could break out the terminations, because right now, termination sounds negative, but it could also be success, right? So it'd be great to know like who was terminated from the program because they either didn't need it anymore or they moved out of the community versus how many people were non-compliant and for what reasons. So I know that data's not in, but I think it would be really helpful. I look at the data every month, and I think the report that you provide is great. And my last question is, I want to know for vacancies, since there continue to be a number of vacancies in particularly certain properties like the Providence and Thornbury and Sycamore. How do we know that there are vacancies? Are they self-reported, or how do we verify that a vacancy is a vacancy?
It's self-reported and it hasn't been updated in our system, so they wouldn't be receiving any type of housing authority assistance. And then also for the end of participation, I thought on one of the reports, Jean, can you go to the next? It should, wait, keep going. It was one report that I know it shows if they left voluntarily and if it was for termination.
Oh, yeah. Here.
So yeah, it says terminated for cause, and then the voluntary self-sufficiency.
Okay.
So we do have that data on there as well for the year to date.
Is that just housing choice voucher?
Yeah, that's housing choice voucher. I'm not sure if the project base or RAD, if they put that on their reports, but for housing choice voucher, that is.
I appreciate that. So you're reporting on the housing choice voucher. I had a question about the RAD properties, but maybe you're not the right person to ask that of. Okay. I'm learning, I'm still trying to understand the different departments, so do you know if for the RAD properties, are they also self-reported, the vacancies?
Yes.
And do you happen to know of and this is really helpful to see the vacancy data for RAD, could you provide us which units we pay, whether there are vacancies or not? Because I know in some cases we don't pay if there is a vacancy, but in other cases, we pay a half payment even if that space is vacant, and I'd really like to understand the difference. Like, what are the when I see a vacancy, is it a loss of actual dollars that we're paying, or is it just a loss of opportunity to move someone in? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, so you're saying if the unit is vacant, that we don't receive any money for it? Is that what you're...
Are you asking about the vacancy plan?
The vacancy payments?
Yeah.
Let Tamika explain that.
Okay, sure. Sorry. I asked it up first. I thought it was RAD properties.
So for the project-based vouchers, they are allowed to have a 60-day per vacancy claim. They have to show what they have done in order to fulfill the vacants. So I know for the year, we're working on those now. And so for 3 of our properties, for Dorchester, it was 8 that they did submit vacancy claims for. And again, it's only for a total of 60 days. After that, then it will just be a loss on their end.
And one of the things that we did do is we updated how we require them to show us. We changed the form so we can get more data, so we can make real educated decisions around that. Now, does RAD get vacancy claims too? Yeah, just like the project base?
Yeah, 60 days.
60 days. And so I think the 3 properties that you talked about with the 8 units is drastically down from what they had before.
Yes.
And a lot of that is because of some of the policy changes that we implemented in our work with them and them changing some of their staff also.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely the case that vacancies over an 18-month period have gone down. We still have some areas of concern, but overall, I mean, we've seen a cut in half in terms of vacancies since it got on, and so that's great.
Any questions for Tiffany related to LSS or anything, or Candace related to you? Or Matt, you can come up and do the financial report so we can get approval related to that.
So yeah, I've also been asked to just kind of put it out there and ask if there's any questions on anything rather than going through all the details. So just want to see if the board has any questions on the September cash disbursements, check detail, or the budget actual reporting. Okay, thank you.
Well, we got you said you wanted to mention one thing related to the finances. You already mentioned that, the error.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the financial report of 2019 cash disbursements and detailed check listing.
So moved.
Second. Been properly moved and second. Will you call for the vote, please?
Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth? Yes. Commissioner Rose?
Yes.
Number 2, we need a motion to approve the September 2019 budget to actual. That's been explained. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
It's been properly moved and second. Can we call for the vote, please?
Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth? Yes. Commissioner Rose?
Yes.
Okay, item number 8, any public comments on non-agenda items only.
Everybody mad at
They
it.
left. They left.
We gotta get through these reports faster. That's what we're trying to do.
Okay, we need a motion to go into closed session for discussion of item A.
So are you asking for a motion?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second to go into closed session to discuss item A. There will be no action taken, so we will be able to adjourn after the closed session. Roll call?
Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Turnbull?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Parks?
Yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth? Yes. Commissioner Rose?
Yes. We'll prepare for closed session.